82% of team members feel misunderstood or undervalued. So this is exactly where I like to be, teaching, communicating, helping others, realizing their aspirations. I'm so excited about shattering the glittering image and uncovering the truth about you.
Welcome back to the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show. I'm Jerry Howard, your host, your executive performance coach, business consultant, and certified jail inspector. Now, you've heard me say that before, so what in the world is a certified jail inspector? Well, I thought I would dig into a little bit of that today, and we're also going to talk about some of the ways that we help executives reach the next level of performance, not only in business, but also in their personal lives. And to get started with the jail inspector piece, from about 25 years ago to about 15 years ago, I had the habit of inspecting jails. And the only way to really inspect a jail is to get arrested. So I was arrested about 10 times in various counties all across America, and really had a lot to do with primarily with alcohol, but really just all manner of debauchery. And so what I love to tell people, though, is that it doesn't matter where you are. It matters where you're going. And here's the cool thing. It doesn't matter what kind of mistakes you made in the past. Like my failure resume, the mistakes that I've made, continues to get longer. It's not that Jerry has arrived just because I'm a leadership coach or a business consultant. What it means is that I have looked back in the rearview mirror and not hung out there like it's something to be desired, but learned from it. And that's the thing, is a lot of times when people wonder, okay, well, what does a business coach do? What does an executive performance coach really provide? Well, we can often tell you what not to do. And in my short life, I've probably lived a couple of lifetimes with all manner of debauchery, and I have a degree in party arts in addition to my MBA. So I've done a lot of things, and I thought I would dig in a little bit to what that looked like when the transformation happened. And we all of us that have hit rock bottom and have some measure of success thereafter, we have a story. And your story is important. And I'm the founder and managing consultant for the iNTREPiD Impact team. We teach iNTREPiD Impact leadership. And our motto is value in every voice. Value in every voice. And the reason why that's so significant is because you have a story. Your story is what sets others free. My story is what sets free a lot of people that have similar challenges. So what I tell people is that your failure resume, those things of which you're most ashamed, are the very things that God can use to actually propel somebody else to a new level of understanding. If somebody hadn't stood on a stage, over 10 years ago and professed their testimony about how God delivered them from whatever challenges they were going through, I wouldn't have been so motivated to do that. And I remember the way that gentleman, his name's Matt Grotwald, when Matt Grotwald talked about his testimony and his wife Elena talked about the healing that occurred in their family, miraculous healing, I was moved. And all I remember is wanting to be able to talk about God, business, family with both excitement and the conviction that he had as well. And I can tell you, it didn't take very long for me to be able to develop that very thing. And so your story is important. Matt Grotwald's story is important. My story is important. And in fact, there's a talk that I like to do, and I do a lot of Christian communicating. I do a lot of keynotes in addition to the business coaching and consulting. And the talk is from jail cells to the C-suite in 0 to 60. Because I can tell you that the last time I went to jail, I wasn't there for just an overnighter. I was there for a couple of weeks, and I was fortunate that I got to convert the rest of the time to weekend duty. So you basically show up on the weekends and do landscaping. But before that, I was in the jail cell, and exactly 60 months after that, so 5 years later, I'm actually the CEO of a small continuing care retirement community. So you can see that if God has a place for you in the future, you'll get there if you have faith. And I love talking about God here because the iNTREPiD Impact Leadership Show sits at the intersection of faith, leadership, and business. And to us, they are as inseparable as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So it wouldn't be right if I didn't tell you where can this be found in the Bible? Well, there's two things that really give value in every voice. It doesn't just mean that you have some cool story. A lot of people that haven't made all those stupid mistakes that I've made might be out there wondering, well, what's my testimony? Your testimony is your story. In fact, let's look in here and see what the power of your testimony is. I'm flipping back here to Revelation 12, verse 11. And it says, they triumphed over him. Now, him is the enemy, right? And the enemy takes on many names over the last millennia or so, but we know him as the enemy of fear, doubt, self-preservation, all those things that prevent you from doing what you are called to do in your business and in your personal life. It says they triumphed over him, the enemy, by the blood of the Lamb, that's Jesus, and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. What does that mean? They didn't love their lives so much as to shrink from death. What it means is that even on the doorstep of death, the apostles and all of us did not love our lives so much that we didn't love our glittering resume, our Facebook posts, our LinkedIn profile. We didn't love it so much that we didn't share our failure resume. Because here's the thing, nobody cares. Nobody cares about your shiny house. Nobody cares if your daughter is on a full scholarship to Liberty University. Yeah. If they can't find 24-hour care for their kids because they have to check themselves into 24-hour psychiatric care. You see the point here? Your glittering image, your perfect resume, doesn't mean a hill of beans to somebody who's struggling. But your failure resume, now that has value. Why? Because it brings relevance to what it is you're saying. And so my testimony is wrapped up partly by the fact that I was in jail at one point and then CEO at another point. And wasn't that long in between the two. In fact, in 2008, I was in jail. 2010, I gave my life to the Lord. 2012, I started training as a hospital administrator. And in 2013, I was CEO. 5 years. 5 years is all it took to create a story that can help set the captives free, as the scriptures like to say, as Jesus himself said. Now, what does this have to do with business? Well, if you're a leader, you have influence. Now, it always starts with positional authority. Positional authority will only get you so far. And this is relevant as an executive performance coach. I help leaders recognize what they look like on the other side of themselves. You as a follower or even as a leader may have sat on the other side of somebody one day and going, does this guy have any idea how he sounds? Maybe you're in a meeting and the team leader doesn't listen to anybody else's opinions. Maybe maybe you're in HR and you're constantly trying to recruit and hire more people because this, we call it accidental, this accidental leader keeps causing people to want to quit. That's what a performance coach helps. That is how we know that there's an issue. There's symptoms around this individual. But here's the cool thing. Doesn't matter if you're leading a Fortune 500 company or if you're leading yourself. Here's what the Bible says about how important your story is. It says it right here. In Acts 4:13, it says, when they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. What does that mean? That means that every voice has value because you overcome the shame of the past by sharing your testimony with somebody who puts value on that. And when you can assign value to your failure resume, you can be as ordinary as Jerry was. I ended up running hospitals and inspiring people. And in fact, when I became an administrator, I was less than 33. I think I was 32 or so. I'm put in charge of people that were 20 years my senior and had been in the healthcare industry for decades longer than I had. But how was I able to inspire them? Well, first of all, I didn't pretend like I knew everything. I listened to my mentors. I listened to my coaches. And quite frankly, I listened to my team. And I can't tell you enough, if you're a leader out there and you've got people on your team, you have the opportunity to empower them by bringing value to their voice. So again, Intrepid Impact Team, which you can find us online at intrepid-impact.com, we believe there's value in every voice. And we help leaders understand that. We equip leaders with the tools to unlock the potential of their people. And remember, there's value in every voice. So how do you go from a jail cell to a C-suite? Well, first of all, I call it total immersion. I immersed myself in leadership and faith, and that was it for the first 2 years after I got done with that. So from 2009 until 2011, late 2011, I didn't even listen to the radio. Right? And I wasn't total recluse or anything like that. I watched movies with my kids. There were some shows on TV, but I didn't pay attention to the commercials, didn't watch the news, didn't listen to the radio. But I started filling my brain with all those things that were going to make me a better leader and a better man of God. And this was the foundation and the root of the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show that we got here now. Because I know that faith, leadership, and business sit at the intersection of everything that I do, and hopefully as a business person, everything that you do. My goal in this show is always to inspire you to try to get to the next level, to try to be a better leader, not only for your team, but for your family, for your community. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's not a lot of trust in leadership nowadays. And politically, who trusts politicians? Well, not a lot of people, quite frankly. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. And quite frankly, it's a shame that there is a side of the aisle. We should be all working together, and we're not. Why? Because we've lost trust in leadership. So what's the mission of Intrepid Impact Team? What's the goal of the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show? To teach you, to empower you to restore trust in leadership. That's it. Restore trust in leadership. And for me, when I got into the hospitals all those years ago, what I realized was I had discernment. Discernment just means that I knew how to make a decision. I knew what was in front of me, truth and falsehood. And if you spend 2 years listening to nothing but faith and leadership CDs, CDs. We didn't have podcasts back then. We didn't have YouTube channels. We had CDs. So I spent all my money on faith and leadership CDs, total immersion, and you'll find that you know what to do. You'll find that you're decisive. You'll find that you're a healthy leader and, quite frankly, happy as well. And so, again, there's value in every voice, and it's built on your testimony. So as a leader, don't be afraid to share when you screw it up, because everybody does. Everybody does. I've told my testimony so many times, I don't think there's most people that probably isn't many people that don't know what my failures are. But whether you have a secret from 20 minutes ago, or whether you have a secret from 20 years ago, whether it was something that you did intentionally, or whether it was something that was done to you, secrets will make you sick. Yeah, I'll say it again. Secrets will make you sick. So don't be afraid to share your failure resume. Don't be afraid to connect with somebody on a level. We've recorded a number of these shows here recently with guests of all kinds. And one of the things that we've talked about is the Peace Index. Well, what are we doing when we ask about the Peace Index? We're sharing our story. Oh, well, my provision's low. Well, what does that mean? Well, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. Oh, my people's low. Well, my in-laws are in town, and it's driving me a little bit crazy. Right? Transparency is key. And you as a leader can share part of your story. And I always say it's got to be relevant. You don't want to go into your whole life story if we only got 10 minutes. But that's the thing. Make time to learn about others and share your story. Share your failures. Be transparent. So there's value in every voice, and there's value in your voice. One of the things we teach at the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show is called a tool called the 5 voices, or the 5 leadership voices. The 5 voices is critical to understanding how you interact with others. There's 5 different primary leadership voices, and how we communicate with others is pretty much determined by what our natural tendencies are. So at Intrepid Impact Leadership, the Intrepid Impact Team, we help you uncover what your leadership voice is. So we're going to spend some time today just briefly looking at the 5 voices, but we're also going to stretch this out and do kind of a leadership teaching series here on the channel. So that's what you can expect for the future. So you can always expect a little bit of faith, probably some scripture, business knowledge, but definitely leadership. And the 5 leadership voices, to me, is foundational to every tool we teach. And so what are the 5 leadership voices? Well, basically, it is a voice system that describes the tendencies of each type of voice and each type of voice that's represented at the table and in the general population. All of the voices are based on the data that's been collected over the last 70 years from Myers-Briggs and the Union archetypes. All of this has been compiled together in a very simple, scalable, sticky way to understand. And when we say sticky, we mean it's just easy to remember. All the tools are developed that Intrepid Impact team uses are developed by a company called Giant Worldwide. Giant unlocks the potential of people by using pictures and videos. And the fancy way of that is called neuro-linguistic science. Pictures and videos. But, if you want to sound really smart in a room, go ahead and use neuro-linguistic science. It's actually hard to say. So I'm kind of glad that it actually came out right. So the 5 leadership voices is just one of 70-some tools, or 65, 70 tools that unlocks the potential of people. And I got to give credit to Steve Cochran and Jeremy Kubicek for developing these tools, because those are the things that really help me unlock the leaders and get my clients to the next level of their leadership. So what are the 5 voices? There's nurture, there's creative, there's guardian, connector, and pioneer. And as you can see, they're not hard to remember, but each one of those foundational voices creates a voice order. So there's a voice order that we all have. And what that basically means is we each speak all 5 voices. So just as easily as I speak connector, I can also speak creative, or pioneer, or guardian, or nurturer. Now, some of them come easier than others. And that's why we have what's called a voice order. So if you want to check out your voice order, we have an assessment on our webpage, intrepid-impact.com. It's going to pop up right there. It's just a pop-up on the website. But it's intrepid-impact.com. You put in your email and your name, and then it'll pop you over to our store, which I call Intrepid Impact Leadership Academy. And it'll be right there. There's a free version and a paid version. A paid version goes into a deep dive into your entire voice order. It comes also with a consultation from me. But the free one is the one I want you to really hone on, because that's going to give you your foundational voice and talk to you about what it means to be a nurturer, creative, guardian, connector, and pioneer. And so those are the 5 voices. And if we look at the 5 voices individually, when we think about nurturer, it's important to understand that nurturer doesn't just mean running around making sandwiches for everybody or something like that. In fact, your nurturer voice is the one that's probably going to be the most selfless. So if your voice foundationally is nurturer, you might be in law enforcement, you might be in the military. Selfless acts are nurturer. And nurturers represent 43% of the population. So if you want to know what a nurturer can do for an organization, just think of what oil does for an engine. Right? So oil in an engine makes all the parts work together. So thank goodness that God stacked the population with 43% nurturer first voice. Otherwise, you can imagine what our engine would be like with no oil in it. That engine probably wouldn't last very long. But nurturers are champions of relational harmony, people, values, and they always put others first. And so we call them the quietest voice. So they're the quietest voice. Why? Well, because they put others first. So in any given meeting, there's probably going to be 4 in the room out of 10. But they're not going to overpower others. They're probably going to wait back and see what other people are saying. And it's not that they don't have opinions. They often do. It's that they care about others so much that they let them go first. So if you're leading a nurturer, ask them to speak first. And you can have your whole team go to our website, intrepid-impact.com. and take the assessment. It's free for everybody. And, the email address that you put in there does come to me, so I'm going to see it, but I'm not going to bug you too much. I might send you my newsletter or something like that. But the point is that you can use that tool to assess the strengths and opportunities that exist within your organization. And if you're leading the team meeting and you've got 4 nurturers in the room and you're not asking their opinion, you need to change. So the next voice is the creative. Now, creative sounds like, oh, I just paint pretty pictures all day or something like that, or maybe I'm really good at graphics and design or video. Those things could be true. But what's important to know about the creative voice is the creative can visualize the future. They can visualize in their mind, better than any other voice, something that doesn't exist yet. All right, so we say they're very future oriented. So if you're a creative first voice, like we like to say, or your foundational voice is creative, then you might be able to visualize a system or a machine or a company or organization that doesn't already exist. You might also be able to visualize the future of a person or group of people, because creatives are champions of organizational integrity, innovation, and future ideas. So if you're a creative voice, you're only 9% of the population. So if you're a leader and you've got 10 people in the room, only one's going to be a creative, but you really need to listen to them. Why? Because not every idea they have is going to come true, but they're the ones that lead innovation. And candidly, they're champions of organizational integrity. Why is that important? Well, I can tell you right now, we've had some corporate scandals over the years that if somebody would have listened to the creative voice in the room, they probably would have known how off track they would have gotten. I mean, think about all the government and business scandals over the years, that if they'd have just changed their policy or changed their practice, I guarantee you there was a creative in the room that was going, this is going the wrong way. Why? Because they can see the future. So if you make a decision today that gets you off track to the left or the right of the straight and narrow, of true north, as we like to say, they're going to see the effects of that far off into the future long before anybody else. Very important to listen to the creative voice. Again, 9% of the population, pretty special. Next is the guardian. Well, the guardian's not unlike what it sounds. They're protectors of history, organizational resources, systems and processes. They're champions of efficiency. Hey, here's the cool thing. I love guardians. Why? They are where the rubber meets the road in almost every organization. 3 out of 10, so 30% of the population is a guardian first voice. So that means that if you got a room of 10 people, 3 of them are going to be the hardest working people in the company. They're going to be the ones that got their nose to the grindstone all day long. And again, they're the ones that make sure you're on time and on budget. So you should be listening to the guardian voice, should you not? Probably goes without saying, on time and on budget is important to everybody. I always say that if we could take more nurturers and more guardians and put them into the government, I think we'd be a lot better off, and I'm sure you could agree. But any organization can benefit. And again, thank goodness that 30% of the population is a guardian, because they're the ones that get all the work done. You know, the creatives are thinking of these cool new ideas. The guardians and the creatives sometimes don't mix well. But if you're a great leader of the both, you can help them work together to form those ideas that are great innovations and simultaneously figure out how to actually make it come to fruition. Now, if you need resources or you need to know certain people on the outside, the next voice is the connector. The connector. The connector is the fourth voice and fourth loudest, I would say. And not loud like they yell all the time, but they're going to be very comfortable talking in a group. You're going to hear from them pretty easily. They always know a guy that knows a guy. They always get resources. A connector is going to be champion of internal collaboration, effective communication, and external resources. They're going to be the ones that are valuing those future relationships. So anytime they meet somebody, they are going to know how important that person is. That new acquaintance could be to the organization in the future. They've got 150 friends, best friends. They've got 1,000 friends, and they probably have 10,000 connections on social media. So again, love connectors, love for them to be at the tip of the spear of any organization, especially in new market penetration. Here's the thing, only 11% of the population is a connector. So 1 out of 10 in that room of 10 people is going to be a connector. So you need to value them, right? And they hold relationships in high regard. So always be tactful when you're talking to a connector, because remember, they're very excitable. They're going to take that great new idea, that great new system, and they're going to take it to market, and they're going to make sure everybody else is excited about it too. Now, last but certainly not least is the pioneer. Pioneer in America is kind of a thing that people think they are. You know, if you're a hard worker and you're an entrepreneur or you've done something new, you might call yourself a pioneer. But here's the thing, only 7% of the population is a first voice pioneer. So they're the rarest voice, but they're actually what we call the loudest or the strongest voice. They're very logical communicators, but at the same time, that volume or that strength of communication can sometimes overpower the rest. So what I love to say is I love to get the nurturers and the creatives talking more, the connectors and the pioneers talking a little bit less, and not less talking, but let's just say they talk last. All right, and here's the thing, pioneers, you guys are masters at strategy, masters at problem solving. You're the one that's probably halfway up the mountain with plan A, plan B, turn around wondering why everyone isn't following you. If you've ever felt like that, probably a pioneer. But again, intrepid-impact.com, you can take our assessment on there for free. Talks about, or it'll tell you exactly what your foundational voice is. So the other thing to note about the pioneer is pioneers are masters at strategy, right? So here's the thing, pioneers. You're going to feel an urge to talk first because you generally are right. 90% of the time you're right. But here's the cool thing. If you lead the meeting, call on the nurturers first, call on the creatives second, call on the guardians third, call on the connectors fourth, and manage that dialogue, you're going to have all of the information from all the other four voices, and you are going to have almost 100% success. So how do you win as a pioneer? Winning is important. Listen to the other voices first. So if you're in a situation or organization where you feel like you're always doing all the talking, it might be time to not. But here's the thing. You can encourage those other voices to speak up by being tactful, by valuing their voice, and again, by sharing your own testimony, as we call it. And in business, we don't call it a testimony. We call it a story. We call it an experience. I like calling it a failure resume. But here's the thing. Every voice has value. So your story, your failure resume is important. And if you understand your voice and you understand your story, your testimony, you can impact probably all the people that are in your sphere of influence. And here's the cool thing. Remember, you're not where you are by accident. I believe that as a faith person, as a Christian, I believe that God ordained every step that you have before the foundation of the world. So even if you're going through something challenging right now, know that God could be using that to help you get better. And also, if you're going through a challenge right now, just know that it might be an opportunity that God is creating to perform a miracle. And I'll cite one more scripture. I can't remember exactly where it is. I believe it's in John. But it talks about the blind man and the disciples asked, hey, why is he blind? Did his parents sin or did he sin? Jesus said, neither one sinned. He was born blind so that God might be glorified. And then the guy received his sight after he did a couple of things. So that's the point is, if you're going through something challenging right now, it's okay. There's people here to help you. You can check out our website, intrepid-impact.com. You can communicate with us there, or you can go to my speaking website, jerryhowardspeaks.com. There's a Peace Index assessment there, and you can also reach me directly there as well. So, folks, it has been a blessing to talk to you about Scripture today, your testimony, 0 to 60, the 5 voices. We covered a ton of ground. But I'm really excited to have you listen in, really excited about what this show can do for you. So anytime you have suggestions, feel free to comment, like us, share. All those things are going to help both you and your sphere of influence. So again, I'm Jerry Howard. I'm your executive performance coach, your business consultant here at the Intrepid Impact Leadership Show. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon.
82% of team members feel misunderstood or undervalued. So this is exactly where I like to be, teaching, communicating, helping others, realizing their aspirations. I'm so excited about shattering the glittering image and uncovering the truth about you.